Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me assure my colleague from Nebraska, whether it's Nebraska or Maryland or any state in this country, the fentanyl crisis is a crisis, and we're losing citizens every day to fentanyl. And the tragedy here is that there are a lot of innocent users that are dying from the fentanyl, not expecting it to be laced with fentanyl. So this is an urgent issue in our nation. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding an early hearing on this subject, because it's not an easy issue. We always talk about supply and demand. Well, the demand side is a little bit challenging here because, as the senator from Nebraska pointed out, people do not expect that they're going to be dealing with a fentanyl-laced product. So we'll always deal with demand, but let's talk supply. And supply is complicated because we have the cartels and the distribution networks, and then we have the supply of the precursors, which are taking over from the fentanyl itself, being manufactured through the precursors. So, Mrs. Mulligan, you mentioned the cartels, and you have a task force to deal with that. What do you need from us in order for us to be able to make a real impact on the viability of these cartels? They operate in trafficking of drugs and so many other activities, anything they can make money off of. But without the cartels, the network would certainly be much less dangerous to our country.
Thank you, Senator. Let me start by actually thanking Congress. We were very pleased and we feel fortunate to have gotten additional funding from Congress in the last budget, $40 million that allows us to expand our counter-threat teams that were operating worldwide to target these two cartels. It also allows us to build vital infrastructure around data and technology to integrate all the information we have at DEA. And so first, let me say thank you for that. Second, as you point out, a couple of things. The first is that right now we have pivoted to a world of synthetic drugs, where the fentanyl we're talking about and the methamphetamine we're talking about that is made by these two cartels, Sinaloa and Jalisco, it is entirely man-made. And right now, there is no limit on how much of those drugs can be made. The only limit are the amount of precursor chemicals that the cartels can get access to. So first of all, working to have China do more to stop these.
I want to get to the precursors. And the challenge here, you may want to elaborate, others might want to also, particularly Ambassador Robinson on this, but these are the precursors are now coming in from various countries. I understand India is becoming a major source also of precursor drugs. They have lawful purposes, but they have illegal purposes being put together for fentanyl. So how do we get a handle on the precursors when it seems like the illegal traffickers are one step ahead of us? As we clamp down on fentanyl coming in, they moved to the precursors and manufactured the fentanyl.
Senator, thank you so much for this for the question, and you hit on an important topic. We, the United States government, the administration, are working aggressively, engaging with our European partners. We are working quite closely with India. We don't see, in fact, precursors largely coming from India to Mexico to make fentanyl. It's almost exclusively distributors from China, and in fact, the Indian government has been positive on this issue. They're working with us in the G20. We are in discussions about setting up a counter-narcotics working group during their presidency of the G20. So we are engaged with the international community, both on a multilateral level, with the UN in Vienna at the CND, but also on a bilateral level with countries like India and individual European countries. The last thing I would say, though, is for the United States, fentanyl is the problem. For Europe, it's methamphetamines. For Africa, it's tramadol. The issue of synthetic opioids in general, is a global issue and has a lot of different layers. They are all engaged at some level both bilaterally and internationally in engaging and addressing it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hagerty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm looking at the leaders of the effort that's supposed to be stopping drugs in America. I just got off the phone the other day with a father from my home state of Tennessee who found